So what do you need to know about adoption expenses? What counts and what doesn't count? That's what we're going to talk about today, coming up right now. What's up, YouTube? Mike and Sarah here are back. And of course, Chipper.
Hey, don't forget that about me.
Can't forget the bird. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. If you have not seen part 1 of this adoption tax credit video series, make sure to go check it out. I'm gonna leave a link in the video description down below, and I'm also gonna leave a link to that video in the comment section down below. And that video is gonna give you a full, more comprehensive overview of how the adoption tax credit works and how the exclusion benefit works as well. Make sure to check that out if you have not already. In this video, Sarah and I are gonna go over the most common adoption expense questions that are out there, so you guys can know when you're going through the process of adopting what's gonna count and what's not gonna count. The important thing for you guys to remember is that regardless of the expenses you're incurring, is make sure, and I cannot emphasize this enough, but make sure you're keeping good records. Without good records, you're not gonna be able to substantiate your expenses if you were to ever be audited. Let's go ahead and get started so you know what adoption expenses count.
Okay, I have a question, Mike. If my attorney is helping me with the adoption process, does that count, or is it a qualified expense?
It is. So if you're working with your attorney, that's anything related to adopting, every one of those expenses are gonna count. Just make sure when the attorney sends the invoice to you, make sure you keep it in a separate file so you know exactly how much you were spending.
What about the cost of adopting a spouse's child?
I didn't know this until I actually started to research this, but there's some people out there, they figure if they're gonna get married, they learn about, and this person they're marrying has kids, they learn that, oh, there's this whole adoption tax credit. I wonder if I adopt their kids, if I can get us a big tax credit. Well, you can't. You can't adopt, if you're getting married and the person you're marrying has kids, unfortunately, you cannot adopt their kids and expect to take an expense deduction.
Do all adoption fees count?
Yes, as far as I know of, they do. When I was looking into this, there wasn't a single expense that I came across that was not deductible. I think as long as it is truly related to the adoption, it's gonna count and you should be fine.
Okay. What if I get help from the state or local government to help pay for the adoption?
Yeah, and so I know there's a lot of programs out there to help with this, because unfortunately there's a lot of kids who need homes and who need to be adopted, whether domestically or from a foreign country. So if you're getting help from the state, the way the IRS views that is they say, well, this person's trying to adopt, but they're already getting free money from the state or local government. So if you're getting free money from your local government or the state in which you live, then you cannot take an expense deduction for that, because that would kind of be like getting a double benefit. You can't get free income and an expense too. That's known as double dipping.
What if I have to go to court? Would these expenses count?
Yeah, so adoptions can get pretty messy sometimes, unfortunately. Sometimes there's court cases involved and you have to step into a courtroom. Luckily, even though it's a pain, if you have to step into a courtroom and the case revolves around this adoption that you're in process of doing, all of those expenses are gonna count.
Now, what if I have to travel and stay in a motel?
This one's pretty cool, because a lot of times, now I know family members who actually had to do this. They adopted somebody domestically in the US, and they had to travel from California, and I believe to Colorado, to adopt their little girl. Well, all of those travel expenses, the airfare, the hotel, the money they spent on meals, all that kind of stuff, because it's related to the adoption, all of it's gonna count.
That's awesome.
So even if you're going to, like, let's say you want to adopt a child in India or another country, that would count as well. So just make sure you keep, like I said, good records and it should be fine.
What about the cost of a surrogate arrangement?
Oh, the surrogate arrangement. Yeah, so the IRS views that as its own separate thing. So any money you spend in a surrogate parent arrangement is not gonna help you with your adoption tax credit or exclusion benefit. So those expenses would not count.
What about if I had to re-adopt that child? Would the expenses count?
Yes. So for some reason, you adopt a child one time and then circumstances change, but later on in that child's life, you have the opportunity to adopt them again. anything anything you spend to readopt them is gonna count.
What other aspects of adoption are crucial to know?
That's a really interesting question because I learned a lot when I was going through this process of studying and putting this information together that I didn't know. So the IRS, of course, never likes to make things easy. The tax code is just complicated. So what they do is they've kind of broken it down into 3 layers of complexity. When you're thinking about qualified adoption expenses, where I would start with is, the first thing is, are you trying to do a domestic adoption or a foreign adoption? That's number 1. Start there, because that's going to impact when you can deduct those expenses. The second thing to look at is to know what stage in the adoption you're in. So as you guys can probably imagine, there's 3 stages to the adoption process. When you first start, that's the beginning stage. That's before the adoption is final. Right. That's stage number 1.
Right.
Stage number 2 is actually when the adoption is final. And stage number 3 is when you incur expenses after the adoption is final. So you can incur expenses at all those stages, and it's just important to know at what stage you're at, because that's gonna impact when you can actually deduct it. The third and final thing to remember about adoption expenses is you have to kind of separately break it out in your mind. Are you going to try to use those set of expenses to claim the credit, or are you going to try to use those set of expenses to claim the exclusion benefit, like the money you would get from your employer? So you kind of have to break it down into those buckets. Luckily, Chipper has an awesome chart for us. I'm going to put up on screen right now. And I'm going to leave a link on my website, on moneyandlifetv.com, where you can come and download this information and directly to your computer. I'm also going to link up several articles and publications directly to the IRS website, so you can find all of this research for yourself. If for some reason, guys, I did not answer your question, or if Sarah didn't ask it on this list of questions, let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. And to the best of my ability, I will answer your questions. So please do not hesitate to ask. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with Sarah and I today. We really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. If you're new to this channel, please highly consider subscribing. Our mission and goal of this channel is to help you improve your financial position, your career, and your life. And we do that by teaching things like personal finances, investing, taxes, and things that are going to help you in your career and your everyday life. So make sure you subscribe for our future weekly uploads. All right, YouTube, if you liked the video, smash that like button. Let us know that you liked it, especially if you want to see more content like this. And Sarah, you did an awesome job. I'm so glad that you were able to be on the show this week.
Thank you for having me, Mike.
Thank you for being a part of the channel and for supporting me this far. I really appreciate it. With that being said, we love you guys. Thank you for watching, and we hope you have a great week. And also, we wish you the best of luck in the adoption process. Bye, YouTube. We love you.
Love you.
Live life uncaged. Peace.